Hey everyone, welcome to Calvary Pursuit. Today we have a musical podcast. That's right. We're going to have Brother Casey Fox join us. This is someone I really wanted to talk to for a long time. He's got such a wealth of knowledge in worship music. He's had a big background in doing all sorts of things when it comes to drumming. He has a great story. I am so excited that we get a chance to pick his brain a little bit today and find out what makes him tick, what makes the worship keep on beat. I'm so excited about that, and I hope you are too. So let's go ahead and join my friend Casey Fox right now. Hello everyone, I'm so glad to have you with me today. I am so excited about my guest, Casey Fox, the drummer extraordinaire. How are you doing today, buddy?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so excited to have you, and I'll be honest with you, this is something I've been waiting to do for a long time.
Oh, man.
The truth is I've been a big fan for years and years, and you always do such an excellent job, so I almost want your autograph. We're going to hold off on that. I'll get some drumsticks autographed in the near future. But for right now, I just wanted to sit down with you, man, because me and you have gotten to pretty close here, and I always enjoy our conversations. And I said, you know what? I want everybody else out there to enjoy kind of some of these cool conversations that you and I get to share.
Yep.
We talk music all the time. We talk a lot about other life things, and there's so much we get into, man. So I thought today we would sit down here and kind of talk about the life of a drummer, the guy that everyone sees every Sunday, that the one that they're clapping with, the one that they're always keeping the beat with, the guy that's just making everything happen when it comes to the rhythm of the service and the worship. And it is so exciting. And so I'm glad to be sitting here with you today. And I wanted to start out with something that's kind of basic, but something that I think is really important, and that's getting to know who you are. So give me an idea. How long have you played drums?
Yes, Gary. First off, I want to say thank you for even having me on and for being very kind in what you were saying. And just so everyone knows, I appreciate having you as a brother and friend. So thank you. Yes, for me, you asked where it started. Is that right?
Yeah, where you started. When did you start playing?
So I started playing actually kind of at a younger age. I was around 5 when I got my first probably kid drum set, and I wore that thing out to the point where there were holes put into the heads, and I actually remember it vividly because I was so distraught and sad about that happening. And so that was around 5 or 6, and flash forward to 12 years old, I was at a buddy's house, and they were listening to music, and his brother was a drummer, and something ignited in me on that day, and it made me remember when I was a kid and playing the drums. And so I went home that day and I begged my parents probably for a week straight to get me a drum set for my birthday that was coming up. And I even went, this is when eBay was still kind of new, went to eBay and picked one out that was about $200-300, and I told my dad, this is the one. And for whatever reason, they both agreed to get it. And so at 12 years old is when I started playing, and from there it's just been a wild ride ever since. I started playing here at around 15 years old.
Wow.
I'm 36 right now, so
wow,
you can do the math.
Yeah, right. But you've got some experience behind you.
Sure.
And it's really cool to see that. And I know that you've actually been teaching a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing to a lot, especially people around that, a lot of their kids really say, hey, I want to do what Casey does. And so you being involved with those kids, I know teaching is sometimes, as someone who's taught in kids praise and taught in different aspects, sometimes it's a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, honestly, how do you feel about that in that part of your life as you teach? Is that kind of something that's rewarding?
It is very rewarding. To see somebody play their first beat ever is a rewarding thing. I've had several of those where you help them understand just what your limbs should be doing. And when you see and hear that come out, and you can almost see it click in their head, like, whoa, this is, how we do this.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's about opening up that, basic rhythm into new things and new ideas. I will say that, and you probably realize this too, being a teacher, but sometimes it's look yourself in the mirror after you get done teaching and you're like, I'm teaching these things here, but I need to be practicing, that as well. And it's kind of similar to our spiritual, beliefs and empowerment for ourselves. We can get up there and talk one way and give suggestions, but sometimes we need to take those own suggestions. And so for teaching, it's beneficial not only for me to see the click in the student, but also for me to remember and realize like, hey, these are basics that we need to all get familiar with, even though I've been doing it for so long. So
Yeah, it's for you. It's
basics
old
are
hat. It's
basics.
easy. It's something, but that's because you also, I mean, from our conversations on a daily basis, you're playing your drums.
Oh yeah.
You're got your
Hmm.
headphones on at home going, and I mean, someone would look at you like me, someone be a little jealous and say, man, I wish I could do anywhere close to what he does on the
Oh
drum set.
man.
But you put the effort in, you put the time in. This isn't something you just do one Sunday, then you don't take it, and next Sunday you just jump on. No, you're doing this Monday,
Ab-
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, that's amazing. And you made a good point there about teaching and how that really does, because I'll be honest with you, me teaching in college and career, teaching in kids praise, and any time that I've got an effort to sit down with somebody and talk about the Word of God, really, honestly, it teaches me just as much.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I learn.
Yep.
I learn every time. So that's a great point. I
And
love that.
and the basics of it, it's like we even in our Christian lives can forget some of the basic, things, principles that we should be doing. Even going back to, our Ten Commandments and just the basic structure of what our faith and, belief should be in. It can get away from us at
Hmm.
times. And so relating that to drumming, I'll say the paradiddle for anybody who doesn't know what that is. That's a basic rudiment, but there's so much in that, just that one sticking. Um, I hope I'm not being a nerd here, but
No, I love
you
it.
can you can do just the rudiment, the right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. That's how it is. But when you apply that to other parts of the drums, or take your right hand off and just do the left hand, I mean, there's a million things in there. And so if we get back to the basics, we can explore that. I feel it's the same in our faith.
That's so true. I totally agree with that. And, talking about faith, we all have to reach that point where we're actually serving and doing that and what you're doing now. But everything that we do is based on our faith, correct? And so how do we get to faith? How do we get to that point? Each of us has to find that in our lives. No matter if you grew up on the pew, whether you found out about the truth when you were 18 or maybe even 45, 80, I don't care when it is in your life, you have to have that starting point. And I know for you, you pretty much grew up in church or how?
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah.
That's funny that we're talking about that, because I remember I moved to Denton when I was like around 7 years old, maybe a little younger. But before we left, I was at a church in Mesquite. It was called Peace Tabernacle, and the pastor Lane, that's who it was. He was my pastor at that time, and I remember as a kid, the drummer. I would be at the back of the church, and the drummer was in the center, exactly kind of how it is here,
Hmm.
and seeing that and hearing him and being interested in what was that, because I
Yeah.
was young, I didn't know. And so, here we are 30 plus years later, and when I look up in the middle, it's like, man, that's where I've got to sit. And it really has been a blessing, for that to be a memory in my life, and then to actually get to live in that space where I remember looking up,
Yeah.
and wanting to be there even at a young
Yeah.
age.
That's awesome.
So yes, always in church, and thankful for that. Thankful
Yeah.
for my parents, and of course my mother for doing that for me.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And
Yep.
we are all so blessed that have had that opportunity to grow up on a pew. Not everybody has that opportunity.
Sure.
And there's yin and yangs on that too.
Oh
Because
yeah.
sometimes, um, as I've noticed in my own life, and I'm sure yours, you have to go to those valleys.
Oh yeah.
You have to find your own way, because I would have loved for my parents to just be able to do this for me, but I couldn't do that.
Right.
Sadly, Gary's got to be an adult eventually, and I had to go and learn and find my own way. And even when I wanted to fight against being a part of the church per se,
Mhm.
because I kind of felt like I've always done this. Why can I do something different? I want to change things up, right? We
Right.
always get that little itch, especially when we were younger, right?
Yep.
Your teens or you're in your early 20s. You're like, it's time to change things up here. I don't want to be that nerdy or that just that stick in the mud. I want to be out there. I want people to look at me and respect me. And so, or I just want to be the life of the party.
Right.
So I do
Yeah.
want to find out, and
Sure.
you tell me how much you want to tell me,
Sure.
but I just want to know through your valleys, through because you've not always played in just a church band. You
Right.
played in all sorts of bands. You've been
Yes.
out there. You've been in probably clubs. You've
Yep.
probably been in every place that you could think of when it comes to drumming.
Yep.
I mean, tell me, how was it getting through that point in your life and then coming to where you realize that, man, this is not where my attention needs to be. I need to be focused on serving God with my talent.
Right. No, and I'm gonna have to shout out Bishop Hudson on this one because, while I was playing here, I definitely was playing other types of music outside of, church music. And not that it was terrible or anything, but it was in places, that we, even at a younger age, probably shouldn't have been. Now, I'll also say those experiences, they teach you a lot when you're a young kid and you're going out and you're playing and you have to move your gear and you have to, set your stuff up and you got to deal with a sound guy you don't know. And those are all life experiences that, I couldn't have gotten anywhere else, and playing experiences. Also, and I'll get to answer your question, but when you're out there and you're playing for either two or three people because no one knows who your band is, and that makes you internally play differently than what if there's 100 people there.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn how to play at a certain intensity for any type of crowd situation. So I had confidence in my playing just because I went through times where no one came and saw our bands, and or times where it was all just your friends and 100 people loving it. And that does change the way things are, but the way you play. But eventually what ended up happening was that you're playing, as you get older, you play in places that are grimy. That's what I'll say, or just feel icky, and the people there might feel a little icky, and you look out in the crowd and they're not people and they're not people that really care about you. Okay. They might like your music, they might like what you do on the drums or on the guitar, but ultimately they're going to go home and you know they'll think about, oh, that was good, but they might be thinking about what they were drinking or what the girl they were trying to get with or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of got tiring. I'll just say that way. And thank God Bishop continued to let me play here, because I always had the Wednesday and Sunday expectation, responsibility, and I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want to let our church down. I didn't want to let the Lord down. And so no matter what I did, I always planned the gigs outside of Wednesdays and Sundays. And I turned down a lot of things too, as time went on, because it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to really focus my talent here for the Lord and be a servant and give my talent back. And man, has it and just greatly blessed me,
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean that's really when I decided, like, I can't do the club thing and go out there and just work hard for nothing. And the church, no matter not even getting paid, what you receive when you are playing and you see people come to the altar, that's the most rewarding thing I think I've ever felt at being a drummer. Sorry if I'm rambling, but
No, I love that. Yeah.
it really is it's kept me here.
Yeah.
And so, Sister Rachel has kept me here, Bishop again. I mean, those people that believed in me were here. Everyone else out there, your band members, quote, yes, they needed you,
Mm-hmm.
but no one else really said, "All right, go get them. We got your back on this." It was more like, "Oh, great song. That's it. See you, next year or whatever."
Yeah.
So
And I'm sure in that kind of situation, it's always, what can you give me next?
sure. Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
It's always, okay, how much time can you give to me now? Or what's creatively going to be better than what you did last time? And I think you probably experienced that quite a bit. But then when you see the dynamics of what you're doing in playing worship music and you're doing it for God, you're not really doing it for anybody else. You're doing it for God, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's a totally different dynamic. And I think that's cool parallel that you're just mentioned that to me. And I think that's really interesting in how that works out
Yep.
and how you say that your payment here is really just seeing people be blessed
Oh, yeah.
and coming to God just because you were able to keep the beat, keep things going, keep the worship, the spirit going, just
Yep.
what you're doing and your talent. I think that's amazing. And it kind of goes back to the conversations that I've had with former guests and some of the things that I've talked about in my life is I'm realizing more and more, and having my own children, um, I'm finding out that it is important for our kids to be involved early and to grow up and to learn to find a path and to kind of put that, because you're just telling me you don't want to let anybody down,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And if you feel like you're accountable, that changes things.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to cut you off here, but
No.
um, as a young person, as a teenager, you have faith, but you haven't had really the time to get to build that faith.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it as a young person was not letting down people who, of course, I wanted to be here, but
Yeah.
it was also um, the responsibility part of it that really kept me here because one, I love to play the drums. One, I love Bishop Hudson, and I loved what we were doing in our music, and I loved again to see the church alive. And so, yeah, that's a big part of it for me.
I
So
like that. I like that a lot. And in talking about music, I mean, what's really interesting is the fact that, I'm sure different parts of the music world that you played in and doing different things, and then you find yourself in worship music. I've always been kind of curious, talking about worship music. We have different styles, growing up when I was younger, they used to have a little bit more of a country worship,
sure,
you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then it kind of has moved on. And now we're at a point where I kind of feel like we are kind of modernizing ourselves quite a bit.
yeah.
I mean, sometimes I guess you could say compared to other genres of music, it's not the same. But I mean, as you look at it now and as you've seen the progression, because you've done this a while,
Mhm.
what have you seen in our worship music that's been really a blessing or something you've seen that really helps?
So, are you asking about just our church in general, or
Well,
just
I
music?
know, I mean, in general, it can be, but I mean, honestly, we do a lot more updated music, I think,
Mhm.
sometimes. But you would know more about
I
that.
feel like it's always been kind of youthful. I do feel like nowadays modernization of, Christian music, worship music, is geared towards more upbeat and, I would say youthful. And I feel like that, when you talk about the old times, it's kind of slower
Yeah.
and, maybe not all of them, but those are different times. And I could go into that whole thing about it being, decades apart and the start of it all, but I really feel like we're more, it's more open to everybody, and
Hmm.
especially the people that, only listen to the radio, pop music, not Christian music. You
Uh-huh.
have a lot of um, that popular music influence on in our worship music that we're hearing on the radio that I feel like does allow the listener to relate to.
Okay.
Um, Now, I have my own preferences on the type of music. Not all radio music am I a fan of.
Mhm.
I do like more upbeat, fast songs because maybe because I'm a drummer. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like also the music has grown, like the level of talent that is out there, and that's everyone's able to put or make a song. You can
Yeah.
go home and make a song, and it can be killer, and it can be, a great song and get on the radio, or not even get on the radio and just be a great song. it's almost like since anybody can do it, there's going to be a lot of good. There's also going to be a lot of bad too.
Yeah.
So it's up to the listener, I guess, to decide
Yeah.
what they feel is good.
It's an interesting point you brought up, and the fact that it is youthful, because you do have to kind of, when you're talking about music, and especially when you're catering to a church, you've got people of all ages.
Oh yeah.
So you've got your elders who really prefer the music that was in their heyday,
Yep.
and then you've got the young people who are like, hey, do like this pop Christian star that just got on the radio, do that style.
Right.
So you've got this big gap here. You're trying to serve everyone, and so I think that's what's kind of interesting about church music and worship music and how it's evolved. And I've heard some songs from the 90s till now, and that's decades apart, and it is different. But I think we still to this day do take some of that and integrate it within the music now, which is a big blessing because people aren't left out, right?
Right.
I mean, I think at Calvary, I think we're pretty diverse
Oh,
in
absolutely.
our music style compared to some places. I'm not hating on it. I don't know. This is the church I attend, so I can't
Sure.
say any,
Right.
any other church out there listening. I can't say anything about your department because I don't know
Absolutely
anything
not.
about it.
No.
But, in my history and hearing from people, there have been some people that say, yeah, we go to this certain service because they only play slow music.
Yeah.
Or we only go
yeah.
to this because we don't like the loud music. And so sometimes you have that. But what I love about Calvary, and as you would know,
Mhm.
we have that diversity. And as you're playing through that, do you enjoy that as a musician?
I love the ebb and flow of our music. Now, sometimes Pastor pulls out a song, and I'm like, and I love you, Pastor. I do. But it's old,
Yeah.
and it's, I don't know it. I'll be honest with you. A lot of the older ones, I'm not, hip to what the words are, but we could do it and we will do it. And when he cuts the music off and it's just vocals, that is the start. That was where we all started, and
Yeah.
all music. It was started with, our first instrument, which is the voice. So I think when we do that, that gets down, that's the roots of it. And then you add in your hymns and your boom clap songs, and then you get more modern with the country, and then it gets more
Yeah.
pop and more this. And so, but the root of it was our voice. And so from there, we do grow up pretty high on the tree, we'll call it, as far as like music dynamics and
Yeah.
how we really try to cater to the Lord rather than, maybe our own feelings or what we think might be best. Sometimes we'll have the pause, and we'll just pause, and you'll hear Rach or Sister Sonia just holding out. And man, there's so much in just holding out notes, which again, I sound like a nerd, but that ambience is necessary sometimes for the spirit to be there. So for us to go from voice 0 to 100 playing, I trust in you. That's a great fast song, that gets people energized, and so we do have a good dynamic, and good ebb and flow of our music, I feel like, and
Yeah.
it makes it fun for us musicians and hopefully the singers because it provides variety.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's so cool just to see how we, not only just really meld together as, a congregation through worship, but just to see these musicians that you guys are just get up there and just with all your heart worship and use your talent to do that. And, I always think to myself, man, I would love to be up there and be able to do that, but that's not my gig.
Sure.
But what's cool about it though is that you're able to worship as you're
yeah.
doing this, as you're just going up there and you're able to worship with all your heart
Yeah.
and play the drums. Where man, I'd be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay,
Yeah.
oh, I got to hit the cymbal. Okay,
Yeah.
I got to. It's so cool that the Lord lets you worship in
Yeah.
what you're doing and actually vocally, right?
If you recall, when I first started playing here, I don't know, I was on congas. Were you here for that? It was a long time
Oh,
ago.
wow.
So I
Maybe
started
not.
with the congas,
Okay.
and I think there was a point where I was playing those and you were here. So, anyways, that was the ultimate worship for me because I was free. I wasn't sitting down or tied down with sticks. I had my hands. I was doing it, and I was able to be more worshipful doing that.
Yeah.
And so I don't really necessarily miss playing those because it does hurt your hands a little bit, and I was playing hard. But I tried to take that same intensity to the chair and
Yeah.
and not let being tied down affect really my exuberant worship that I wanted to do. So that's why if you hear me up there hitting stuff hard, that's probably because I really don't care what you think, and I'm worshiping
You're
and I'm
enjoying it.
playing, and or maybe something, you know, sounds off. It happens to everybody, but I'm up there enjoying. I'm not playing for anybody or anything rather than just to give glory to God.
That's
So,
right. I love it.
um, how I play hopefully is pleasing to him.
Oh man, yeah, that is so true. And we're running out of time here, and I
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to run out of time.
Oh yeah.
But
Well,
this the time goes, and
yeah.
I want to make sure
Part
that
two, man.
I know, right? Well, we'll do it.
Yeah,
Eventually, we're going to do part two.
sure.
But one big question I do want to ask you before we kind of skedaddle, looking at music, let's just be honest.
Okay.
There's ego in music.
Oh yeah.
There always has worldly, even in church. I hate to be that way, but we
Yep.
have to be honest, right?
Yes.
There's always ego. And, people also like, okay, if I let go of my spot, am I getting it back?
Yep.
And I've been really, to be honest with you, really impressed by you. I always have, but what really impresses me is just the way you're so graceful about allowing others to sit in your seat. Well, I mean, I guess you wouldn't say it was your seat, but sit in that seat
Oh man.
because you've been there so long,
Yep.
right? You're the veteran, but just the gracefulness that you've allowed other people to come in and whatever they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it. Is it, I'm not saying it was, but is it difficult at times to kind of sit down with because you're so used to being up there?
Um, you know what? Yes and no. I love to play. And so I saw a picture one time. It was a guy that was in a full football uniform and he was on the sideline and it said, "Put me in, coach." And that's how every musician probably feels when they're watching other musicians play. So anytime no matter where I was watching another drummer play, I was ready. And it doesn't matter if that dude breaks his arm. God, please don't let that happen. But I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So I have that feeling sitting out, but it's all about growing the kingdom. And that's what we've been, taught our whole lives. And that's what I want to try to do. And so while, sure, I would like to be playing up there, it actually, again, gives me the joy to see others up there trying. And, my ego has been humbled so many times that I really try not to go up there with the ego. And I think it's important for all of us musicians and singers to leave the ego at the door because it really has no place in front of our worship because it will get in front of your worship. And so, yeah, it's not always fun to, be sidelined from an injury, but I'm really proud of Trent and Brandon. Man, they have been just practicing and doing a great job. And so, uh, being in the pew, has been very good for me. I think I think I've missed some of the just worship that you get from the crowd, and I think that hearing others play is always inspiring, and seeing what they're doing, um, is great. And I'm proud and I'm happy that they're here to have helped, especially with my recent back injury. So,
Yeah.
but I'm happy to be up there now, for sure. But yeah, you have to leave ego at the door. And if you do have ego, it's only a matter of time before either the Lord or someone else humbles you on that. And from there, you have to make a decision how you're going to react. So,
Yeah, that's so true, man. And wow, what an amazing time.
oh
I can't
man,
believe it's over.
I can't even.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We've had a,
I love you, Gary.
I love you too.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
the one big question I didn't ask, and I'm not going to do it because of time, but we're going to have you back on,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about this topic that I wanted to ask you about, but we'll do it next time, and that is the power of music,
Okay.
and
Wow.
how we are affected by it, and how you personally, because you're in the music world,
Yeah.
and you were
I've got.
involved in all sorts of music, and the spiritual, all the crazy
Absolutely.
things, what kids need to watch out for.
Yes.
So in the near future, we're going to have you back and we'll talk about
That'd be
that. Does that
great.
sound good?
Sounds awesome. I'm ready for it.
All right, cool.
All right.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We've had a blast here. We hope you've enjoyed yourself. And of course, if you want to check out more content like this, please join us. You're probably watching us on YouTube right now. And if you're not, hey, go check us out on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. Make sure you also hit that little bell. That'll give you a notification letting you know, hey, our podcast is up. And whatever you want to do and sharing it, do it, because you're going to bless somebody by sharing this out. We thank you so much for joining us. And until next time here at Calvary Pursuit, make sure you're loving somebody, because you just never know who might need a new beginning.